The applicant is requesting a use permit to construct a new 155-foot tall steel monopine telecommunication tower and related facilities within a secured 1,050 square foot portion of a 33,106 square foot parcel situated in the county's agricultural district. The monopine will be painted to resemble a real pine tree. The facility will be designed to accommodate the co-location of at least 2 other wireless service providers and will comply with all federal, state, and county rules and regulations. The objective of this project is to allow Verizon to expand wireless telephone and E911 services to the majority of the Hawaiian Paradise Park subdivision by adding this 5th cell site to provide coverage. The applicant provided this proposed site plan. The lease area is shaded in yellow. The subject property is outlined in red. The applicant provided this elevation plan. The height of the tower again is 155 feet. This is the zoning map. The subject property is in the agricultural zoning district. The surrounding properties are also zoned the same, A1A. This is the state land use boundary map. The subject property is in the state land use agricultural district. This is the general plan land use pattern allocation guide map. The subject property is designated as rural, as are the surrounding properties. This is an aerial photograph of the subject property outlined in red. The proposed lease area is shaded or outlined in yellow. This is a site photograph of the subject property standing on 21st Avenue in HPP looking directly at the subject property. The photo on the left was taken standing on 21st Avenue looking northwest, and the photo on the right was taken standing on 21st looking southeast. The planning director recommends approval with conditions. For this use permit, this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have.
Do they live there?
Right.
On the property?
Right now, there's no structures on this property.
Okay, that's what I thought when I looked at it.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter before the commission today?
I do.
Please introduce yourself, where you're from, and proceed, please.
My name is Jeanette Martin. I live in Cairo, Kona, and I work as a consultant of Verizon Wireless. Oh,
Go ahead, please speak into the microphone.
pardon?
Please speak into the microphone.
Okay.
If you have nothing to...
No, I was just giving them an opportunity to read that, but let me, at the last hearing, Councilman O'Hara testified, and I also spoke with her after the meeting, and she had asked that I look into the possibility of relocating the tower to an area the county was in the process of acquiring as a park. And I did run that by the radio frequency engineer, and unfortunately it will not work. So it would leave some people without coverage in Hawaii Paradise Park. She also had a concern and wanted maybe a third-party cell tower company to build the tower. Well, Verizon could do that. I didn't see the need for it. As far as I know, Verizon has always accommodated any carrier that wanted to come on their towers. So we have no problem with that condition. I wanted to let you know, you'll hear from the Youngs here today. I did meet with them after the last hearing, And I provided some safety facts to them from the FCC and the American Cancer Society, and also a study that Harvard did explaining why they shouldn't be afraid of electromagnetic emissions on the tower. You received a petition that was gathered through the neighborhood, and at the top it says, "Stop Dangerous Cell Tower." And a lot of facts that they submitted to their neighbors were incorrect. And I think that when you go to your neighbors and you tell them it's unsafe, and I want you to sign this petition, if it was me and it was my neighbor, I probably would have signed it. Verizon would also like the opportunity, and they're asking that we continue this hearing again after testimony is received, because they are doing their own petition where they're reaching out to their subscribers and asking them if they would like to have cell coverage, and if they agree that this location is appropriate. I'd also like to bring the radio frequency engineer and explain to you folks why it's safe. I have this study here, and I'd be happy to provide you with copies, that Harvard did, and it kind of explains, I like it because it's simple. The FCC information, and I'll give that to you as well. And then we also have the American Cancer Society has also explained that there is no credible evidence that cell phone towers cause cancer. So I hope that this helps ease their mind about it, and I guess that's all I have to say for now.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for the applicant's representative?
I do. Yes, I do have a question. As far as there was a recommendation from Mrs. O'Hara.
Mm-hmm.
As far as elevation from what the proposed down Kaloli on the right, there is a designated location for a park.
Yes,
Okay, a park.
right.
Now, why you mentioned about frequency?
Placement.
Do you have an elevation difference between 21st and that street? Shouldn't it be a higher elevation would be better frequency, or not necessarily?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't work that way. And I can, if you grant this continuance, I'll have the radio frequency person explain it. But it's actually the placement. The tower height, elevation can be adjusted with the tower height. And that's another thing I wanted to offer up. If it helps, Verizon Wireless would be willing to reduce the tower height to 125 or maybe more, if that helps. So it's really the placement. So, we moved it from 21st Street and then moved it down to 25th Street. So on the other side, that's how many blocks would be missing coverage. And, it's such a small area that they would probably be missing coverage forever, because it costs about $1 million for the carrier to build and develop these cell sites, and it's just cost prohibitive to do something to cover those that would be left out.
The reason why I asked that question is that, like Leilani, Nana Valley, they have them in their park.
Yes.
So basically it boils down to, if you're a next door neighbor
Yes.
having a satellite, or a cell tower next to you,
Mm-hmm.
how would you feel? Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
kind of like the
understand.
appropriated location of these cell towers, to me, it's like if you go many different places,
Mhm.
like again, I live in Puna.
Yeah.
You see me in Leilani at their park.
Mhm.
You go to Nana Valley, it's at their park.
That's right. And that's why I
Yeah.
went to the Homeowners Association back in 2014. I went to them and I asked for their help. That's where I started. I went to the neighbors, asked for their help. And so I took this to the Homeowners Association. At that time, they said I couldn't go in the park. And so Verizon designed these cell sites around where we could go. And unfortunately, this subdivision is so huge that it has to go where the people are. And even if you did move it to the park is surrounded by homes. So what guarantee do you have that those people wouldn't object to it? So you just might be moving from one area to another area.
Well, I have a question. How far away is this new park that was discussed as an alternative site from the existing proposed site?
It's 4 blocks, and then it's west of Kaloli. So it's on the other side of Kaloli, 4 blocks west.
And how big is the proposed new site compared to one of these? These are acre lots in Hawaiian Paradise Park. How big is the new area? The reason what I'm getting to is if it's 4 or 5 blocks away, but it's in a much bigger area so that houses would be considerably farther from the tower than right next door, as in this existing case. Couldn't you raise the height of the tower a few feet and still get the coverage that you get at 125 feet?
Engineer. No, it has to do with the actual placement of it, the location of it, not the height. And so if we were forced to move it to the park, so we would probably have about 4 blocks going the other way, going east, that would go without coverage. So we wouldn't be able to cover the whole park.
You mean the whole Hawaiian Paradise Park, the whole
Because
area?
we've already got approval for 4 others, and none of those are in parks. Like I said, we started with the Homeowners Association. This is the 5th one. This would be the last tower that we would be requesting in Hawaiian Paradise Park, and we couldn't adjust another cell site in order to make up the difference, if that makes sense.
By the way,
Wait. Sorry.
Ma'am, there will be plenty of time to testify. Have you signed up to testify?
No.
If you would like to, please sign up at the front desk. Any other questions from the commission?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Who are the other cell carriers that will be on that tower?
The carriers can't apply for co-location until the tower is built. But the carriers that are on island right now are just the major 4. There's AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint.
And are these carriers also on the other 4 towers in Hawaiian Paradise Park?
No.
So did they build their own towers?
No, just like Verizon, we always have a preference to go locate on a tower. It's less expensive. It just makes more sense. So if you can find a tower to go on, you're going to immediately go to that tower. You're not going to build your own. So we co-locate on each other's towers all the time, as is the policy of the county planning department to do so.
But maybe I'm confused. You're saying nobody has co-located on any of these other 4 towers?
I don't have that information.
Oh.
But as far as I know, they're all fairly new, and I don't believe that there has been any co-location applications, but I can find out for you.
I have one other question. Do you have any liability insurance that covers these towers for damage?
Absolutely, yeah. Verizon's a huge company. Of course,
Well, my question would be why? The representation in the previous testimony was that these towers never fall down or cause damage to neighbors. Why would you bother to have liability insurance?
Well, in case somebody comes on the property and trips, of course, Verizon's the deep pocket. People are going to go to them first. So, and it's just standard business. All businesses have to have liability insurance.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions,
I have sort of a question. Technologically, this tower cannot be moved if you wish to have cell coverage for the entire subdivision.
That's what I said, yes.
And it comes down to, do you want to talk on the phone or look at a cell tower?
Right.
It's the choice the community has.
Right, and RootMetrics did a study, and they found that more than 75% of prospective home buyers want strong cell coverage. So if that's the case, you know,
No,
people are not
I
gonna-
get it. I'm just
Yeah,
trying
right.
to be clear on, how would you
Right.
say, the social choice here.
Yes, right. And so that's why I said while we do this text campaign to find out if our subscribers really want service here. I mean, if they don't want this tower here and they don't want this service, and then Verizon can walk away from it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question. The association, did they take any position on this?
No, I did a presentation there, and I received a letter. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of it, but I can provide that to you, a letter from the association explaining that I did the presentation there and that there was no comments from their members that attended. And there, I would say there was maybe 20 people from the association that attended.
Yeah, I think I would be interested to see the position of the association, the board,
Okay. I'll
what
get that
what they
letter for you.
decide. Yeah.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, please be seated. And at this time, I'm going to ask people who have signed up to testify to come up 4 at a time. The first 4, Lori and Courtney. Thank you. Lion Youngs and Patty Egan. Okay, I'm going to swear you all in simultaneously here. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter before the commission today?
Yes.
The records show they all said yes. We're limiting testimony to 3 minutes. So if you see a card raised up, please understand what that's for.
My name is Laurie Diaguiar. I live at 15-1254 Railroad Avenue, and my home is the home in the picture. So I said 70 feet in my report, and it's less than that. Just explain.
My name is Courtney Diaguiar. I live at 15-1254 Railroad, and yeah, like she said, the aerial view house, that house to the right is mine.
My name is Leanne Youngs. We reside at 15-1244 Railroad Avenue. So if you look at the location plan, we're lot 014, which is adjacent to the cell tower as well.
My name is Mark Youngs, reside at 15-1244. I'm at that same residence, lot 1014.
I may have miscommunicated here. You can immediately proceed after you introduce yourself to make your testimony.
Because we only have 3 minutes. My main concern is, which we can't use the health issue, just the close proximity of the tower. If it fell, it would crush my whole house. I mean, not to mention the safety part. I love to wake up in the morning, go on my front porch, drink my cup of coffee, and not want to hear a hum or anything from this huge tower, which would be really ugly. our property values will go down. Who'd want that? I don't think she'd like that tower that close to her home. And I think it's just BS about we need the cell coverage. We all can get Wi-Fi in our homes. I don't understand. And most of my neighbors, a lot of our neighbors, we have squatters who fell on bad times. We have low income. They don't even have cell phones, some of them. So I don't know, I don't see the high need. Dan Evans, the owner of the property, told me that he fell on hard times. That's why he's thinking of putting the tower there. And we were first told that it would only be 20 to 30 feet. I can't make this up, and I didn't have knowledge on the seriousness of this thing until I went and researched on my own. And who'd want that?
Yeah, and in addition to my wife's comments, it's a 155 behemoth of a thing less than 70 feet away from my house. I'm opposed to it.
From the beginning, as far as being professional in communication, let us know on this whole cell phone, cell tower from Verizon, Ms. Martin. We have not received any communication. I had to go for it and find this information. We asked for there was a continuance. I wouldn't even have known if Ms. Watanabe never, emailed us or let us know. They didn't know ahead of time. And so as far as the information, I feel like this is just being pushed to just happen fast. And if you look at the location, there's 3 houses right around this thing. And the park that they're proposing on 25th is huge. It's like 3 different lots. 20 acres. But that's what I don't understand. If you look in the picture, you see a tower with 3 adjacent houses right next to each other. Their location doesn't make any sense, and as far as property value, we know already we will lose. And we cannot bring up the health issue. We cannot bring up any safety issues because it's already pre-approved from Harvard or whoever else. But we don't know how far those studies will go, and all the research that I found was outdated. All this research is done from before. All the new research that we found, there's very few to none. That's all I have to say.
My name is Leanne, and just to elaborate on my husband, what he was saying, when we researched, we couldn't find anything. There's really little government-funded research to tell us the safety risk and the health hazards. I mean, there is some stories from victims who live next to cell towers who have symptoms like headaches, nausea, sensitivity to electronic devices, and we're just worried because we have 2 little children who are 3 and 2 years old. Our neighbors also have kids. They're super susceptible to stuff like this. So we oppose the tower being built, and we hope that you folks can take into consideration how we feel as neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission for these testifiers? So the next 4 testifiers is Patty Egan, Barry Henry, Hope Henry, and Utai Suzuki. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter before the commission today? They all said yes. Proceed with your testimony.
My name is Patty Egan, and I am currently in the process of starting construction on a house on 13th, just off of Kaloli.
No, go ahead, please proceed with your testimony.
Oh, okay. I just have a few things to add about the perception about the health hazards of radio waves from a cell tower. I too am very concerned with health and exposure to anything that may hurt me, my granddaughter, my friends, family. And according to the American Cancer Society and several other scientific studies that I read, radio waves are not DNA disruptive. Actually, you can get more DNA disruption sometimes from your actual cell phone or routers in your house. And public exposure to radio waves from cell tower antennas is slight for several reasons. The power levels are relatively low, the antennas are mounted high above the ground, and the signals are transmitted intermittently rather than constantly. And at ground level, the emission of these radio waves is 1,000 times lower than the limits for safe transmission set by the federal government. So I think that, concerns about high frequency radio waves is substantial, but these are not the same thing. I also feel that having a cell tower there that would enable everybody to have access to connectivity is important for emergency, such as we're looking at right now. If everybody has good connectivity, they can get that. Plus, the police and fire could use that. You got it. I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, no, you don't. You have a minute.
Hello, I'm Hope Henry, and I live at 15-1389 13th Avenue in HPP. I want to thank you for taking the time to hear my testimony today. I've been working on this cell phone tower for almost 4 years. I live in an area where I have to go outside to make a phone call, and sometimes the call is dropped 3 or 4 times in one conversation. I do not have a landline because as a retired person, I have a budget, and I have to decide what I can afford. I can't afford a landline and a cell phone. And so I decided to have a cell phone because it also, if I'm away from my house, there's no pay phones anymore. I can't call, and it's for safety reasons, it's better to have a cell phone with me. It worries me to think what would happen if someone tried to break in at night. And in HPP, just recently, we had 2 break-ins. One while people were sleeping upstairs. I don't know what I would do. I guess I would text a friend and hope they heard my text. I can't text the police department to say, help me, 911. I'd have to go outside and say hi to the person breaking in to get help. And that's a horrible feeling to have. Or if I was ill, having a heart attack in my bed. It's just not okay. When we had that missile alert, we closed all our doors. It was probably futile, but what are you going to do when you have that kind of crisis? We closed all our doors. I couldn't call my kids. I had to text them. I want you to think about that. If you think that you only have maybe a little while to live and you can't call your children to say goodbye, you have to text them. We already have cell phone towers in our subdivision. This is not a new technology that people haven't been exposed to. Our subdivision is growing, and all the citizens have the right to services. I understand that people want to keep it country, but for me, as a matter of safety, I need to have a cell phone. I have heard that people are proposing to put it in the new park. That would mean I would be out of coverage. I am that person. I've been told that it would take another 5 years also, and if they were able to do it, and that's not fair to the people who have already been waiting, some for 15 years for service. Please assist us in making sure we can have the safety and security of cell phone service. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Barry Henry, and I've been a resident in HPP for 4 years. During that time, I've become aware that there's a critical need for reliable and area-wide cell reception. I live at the end of 13th Avenue on the Hilo side of HPP, and I'm unable to get a decent signal on my cell phone unless I move out to my front porch. As residents in Lower Puna, The potential dangers that we face each year regarding weather and geological events are unique, really, I think, in the world. The June 27th flow of 2014 and the current seismic activity in Lower Puna point to the ever-present risk of volcanic activity. Additionally, the frequency of hurricanes and tropical storms threaten to disrupt our access to food, water, and medical services. One of the first things to suffer in these events is our ability to communicate with emergency personnel and family and friends. Additionally, I ask that you not be unduly influenced by the radio waves cause cancer hype. I can understand that some people may not rely on the scientific method to justify their opinions, but there is no evidence that radio frequency waves cause any type of illness. A single study in the 70s that came to that conclusion has long since been debunked as junk science using false data in a small sample. There have been no peer-reviewed studies that suggest any links to cancer. For these reasons, I request that you approve the sale permit. Thank you.
Hi. Aloha, everyone. My name is Utai Suzuki. I wrote one of testimonies brought to you prior to this meeting. I hope you all have read those with open heart and mind, especially Lori Dagaya. Circumstances are eye-opening, okay, because county planning department accepted Selco application based on Mrs. Danette Martin's statement. Residents agreed for cell tower, which was false. Okay? She came with a 20-foot in the beginning. Now, I'd like to share my insight regarding this monstrous 155 cell tower in a few sentences. I live diagonally across from Mr. Evans a lot. First one is unregulated federal telecommunication policy overshadows our basic civil rights to live in a safe environment. That's no-brainer. I believe Selco rep, Ms. Danette Martin, has provided false statement to county and lost her credibility to interact residents in all 360-degree surroundings at this particular lot with honesty and most of all respect-free with her agenda. She approached the Gaia family and later targeted them singularly. I never heard anything about it until just this year. What goes up will come down one day, and there is no evacuation plan from potential collapse or fire of cell tower, since we live on island with frequent earthquake. Finally, it makes more sense to find more open and least populated area to build this huge tower. But again, first, Selco must make sure from very beginning your proposal is clear and specifies size of tower, the final size of tower, for everyone to see and fully understand by inhabitants. Holding neighborhood meeting will be very appropriate so they have a chance to decide for themselves. Please remind ourselves, goodwill happens from bottom up, not top down. And one thing I'd like to mention that the picture of a planned park, I think it's already starting this year. They are back-to-back, one acre lot, back-to-back, 20 acres, I believe. So it's pretty big. And then across the street from 25 to 24 is a shipment is their proposal for, I believe it's shopping center. So that's a big area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for these testifiers from the rest?
Oh, and I gathered 47 signature just around the neighborhood.
Speak into the microphone.
Oh, just around the neighborhood. It's 47 signature. These are just along Railroad and the 21st, and
Thank
the Amelia, which is 20th.
Thank you. We've all got a copy of your petition. Thank you. Right here. We have two more people who've signed up to testify, Eileen O'Hara and Claudia Rohr. Would you please come forward?
I am Eileen O'Hara. I represent District 4 on the Hawaii County Council. I am not a resident of HPP, but I am a resident of another rather large subdivision in Puna, Hawaiian Shores, Hawaiian Beaches, and I'm well aware how the larger subdivisions have worked through their homeowner associations to provide collectively held lands to place cell towers. This has been a very effective approach. We did it in Hawaiian Shores, we did it, they did it in Nanavali, and they did it in Leilani. And that alleviates some of the land use conflicts that get started when you have small lot subdivisions and a single lot attempts to move forward to place a large 155-foot cell tower. I appreciate that Verizon Wireless has made some effort here to find alternative locations, but I don't think their search has been exhaustive enough. I also am well aware that people in the lower part of HPP need better coverage, which is one of the reasons that I pursued it when I was president of our homeowners association, and we placed a new cell tower about 2/3 of the way down our 6-mile-long subdivision. Unfortunately, the Verizon Wireless mappage that we were given, as well as the AT&T mappage, showed that we were going to have very strong signals all the way down to the shoreline. I live on the shoreline. We didn't get any signal. The last 10 blocks of both Hawaiian Beaches and Shores do not receive signal from that new tower because of the topography. So you have to be a bit careful with the engineering design as to what actually occurs on ground. Another thing that's to be noted, I heard the representative from Verizon Wireless referred to being able to reduce the height of the tower. By reducing the height of the tower, you've also reduced the ability to add extra carriers because they have to have at least a 10-foot vertical separation in order to operate on the same tower. So if you reduce from 155 to 125, you've reduced the potential to have other carriers that'll want to site on that tower because they won't get the gain in coverage that they're looking for. I also understand that she tried to address the Homeowners Association, HPP, but when I investigated, it seemed more that she had gone to the office and talked to staff. The way to address the HPP membership is to go to a membership meeting and request to be agendized on that membership meeting, and you will be addressing 150 residents of Hawaiian Paradise Park in that manner. As for other locations, where they're located, yes, we just acquired property, the County of Hawaii just acquired property to do a new county park, and it's 20 acres, but that's now in the county's hands. Right across the street from there is land held by Watamal Development Corporation. They were the original developers of HPP, and they have several 20-acre sites that are there for commercial development. That might be a really good site. It's within 3.5 blocks of where the current location is. Go close to a half mile to a mile down that roadway, and you run into Shipman's Land, large 2,000+ acre parcel that could also support. I've looked at the topography maps. There's some high points right there at the end of 22nd that might be adequate for the coverage that they're looking for in HPP. We need the coverage. I just wish they would do a more exhaustive search. because these types of uses within small lot subdivisions cause land use conflicts. HPP is 8,800 lots. We already have a lot of land use conflicts occurring in the park just under its current zoning. So I don't think it's wise to exasperate that. That's just my feeling, and you've heard from the residents as to the need and as to their concerns. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That was very good. I'm Claudia Rohr. I don't live in HBP, but I was a realtor for several years. And one of my pet peeves is that the planning department doesn't always enforce the law. When I was doing real estate, I investigated cell phone towers, and I sold a property that had a cell phone tower lease. And I believe the law says that you have to own enough land that when it falls down, you're leasing enough land that it won't fall on someone else's property. In other words, it doesn't seem like this portion is big enough. It would have to be 310 feet, it's circular, so that it could fall down and not hit someone else's property. I don't know the law offhand. I'd have to research it, but that was what my research was back in 2002 or 1. Thank you.